Hello everyone and welcome to Momentum channel. My name is Mo, and in this video I wanted to provide an update into our portfolio that my wife and I have currently sitting at $465,000. What are those stocks and ETFs that we are buying currently and adding to our positions? I also wanted to share with you some of the improvements that I've made to the dashboard that I've developed on Google Data Studio for this portfolio. I think you're going to like it. Let's get into it. I have been sharing the link to my portfolio transparently. You can access the link through the description of the video on YouTube, and it's available for you publicly, which shows you easily what are the latest and greatest with our portfolio, where things are at, how many shares of what ETFs and stocks we have in our portfolio, what's our geographical exposures, what is our expected dividend income, unrealized gain or loss, realized gain or loss overall, and how much is our net deposit, so on and so forth. The two additional tabs that I've added here includes X equity geographical exposure, because it's our largest holding and it gives us a diversified globally exposure. And so you can see easily where things are at with that as a whole for X equity. And then the other one is VT geographical exposure. Why don't we get started there? So if you click on that X equity geographical exposure, you're presented with this kind of a map view, and you do see these circles on the map. This is based on the data as of October 27th, 2023, based on the latest that I accessed the data from the BlackRock website. It shows us what is the geographical exposure that anyone, by buying into shares of X equity, is getting. And the numbers are presented in percentage. As you see, the biggest circle here is for United States. As you hover over it, it shows 46.04. What it tells you is that for each one share of X equity that you buy, 46% of that is invested in US stock market, overall the total US stock market. This includes major companies such as Apple, Tesla, and so many more of companies, because it's the total US stock market. Following that, if you hover over Canada, that's the second largest kind of circle here, is you see the percentage is around 24%. So 24% of exposure is to Canadian companies. And you see the spread here. The way that this dashboard is built, if you wanted, you can zoom it in if for any region and easy see different things. So if I look at the ones that are a bit larger, like for example, Japan, you see around 4.8% exposure. The other large one that I see here is for United Kingdom, around 3.26%. Australia, you have around 1.6%. You have here Singapore, Indonesia, and so on and so forth. Easily you can hover over it and zoom in or zoom out and see what's your exposure to different countries around the world when it comes to X equity. As for VT, which is the Vanguard Total World Stock Market Index, here your largest exposure is to US, but here exposure is much higher, close to 61% of exposure is there. For Canada, we get a much smaller exposure through VT, only around 2.8%. For those of you who've been following our videos in the past, you know that for me, I hold on shares of VT only in my RSP account, because VT is available in US dollars. And there's an advantage of keeping these type of funds in US dollar in our registered retirement savings plan, because depending on the the treaty that is available between Canada and US and potentially other countries, there is better treatment when it comes to taxation on the dividend income from these companies. So for example, any holdings in US companies that pay us dividend, if we hold shares of VT in our RSP account, we are exempt from paying that 15% withholding tax on that. So the withholding tax is no longer going to be there as long as we hold shares of VT in our RSP account. That's actually how I go about it. If you hover over other dots, it shows you different percentages. So for example, for Sweden, just shy of 1% at 0.8%. For, let's say, France is 2.6%. For Australia, around 1.9%. New Zealand is around 0.1%. So only a fraction of a percentage point, and so on and so forth. Now, if you go back to our main page, overall portfolio, this is where the gist of the updates are. Our current portfolio size is slightly over $465,000. All of our positions, including VT, X equity, and VTI, are currently showing negative return. VTI, which is Vanguard Total Stock Market Index, gives us exposure to overall US stock market. That's why I didn't add a geographical exposure page for that, because it would be 100% to US USA. So kind of pointless. But for X equity and VT, the geographical breakdowns are shown for you there. With X equity, which is our largest holding, currently we have over $420,000 in market value in it. We have 16,622 shares of X equity at this time. Our next big holding is VT, Vanguard Total World Stock Index Fund. We have 206 shares of it with a market value of just short of 26,000. And lastly, VTI, we have 53 shares of it with a market value of just over $15,000. All of these are converted into Canadian dollar equivalents. As you know, VT and VTI are both available in USD. In terms of the expected annual dividend income, they are also showcased for you here, which brings us to an expected annual income total value of $9,869. Our portfolio is currently down. As a result, we are showing some unrealized loss. We call it unrealized because we are not truly losing anything until actually we decide to sell. And this is not our plan. We are actually every single day buying more shares of X equity in this case. For VT and VTI, because they are in my RSP account and I've already maxed out my RSP, I don't have any more room or funds available to actually buy into these shares. The only way for me to add to all those ones is that as I earn more dividend income, they are reinvested and used to buy back more shares of VT and VTI in my RSP account. The geographical exposure shown here is actually showing us how our portfolio, my wife and I, our portfolio is actually formed based on the number of shares that we have. As you notice, like with X equity, you are getting exposure to different countries with different percentages. With VT and VTI, similar stories, except for VTI, you're getting 100% to US. Depending on how many shares you have of each of them, this overall exposure, geographical exposure breakdown is going to be different. When we take them all into account based on the weighted average, the percentages that we are currently exposed to are shown here. For US, we have 47% exposure to US market. For international, this is excluding Canada and US, we have 24%. For Canada, we have 24%, around 23.5%. And for emerging markets, just over 5%. We also have added this target. The target is just an internal target that I've set for my own portfolio. This could really be different for different people, depending on your decision, how much exposure you want to have in your portfolio to US stock market versus Canada versus emerging markets. I've posted a few kind of topics on Blossom, talking a little bit about home bias, what is the right level of exposure to investing in Canadian markets versus other markets, international markets. And we've had some really good discussions on Blossom. So many folks have jumped into those discussions and robust conversations. If you haven't already checked out those posts or haven't already accessed Blossom, I do encourage you to do so. You can easily download Blossom app through my referral link, which is available in the description of the video on YouTube. That way you can earn some bonus and follow me and other wonderful investors in Canada. Blossom is a wonderful community allowing investors in Canada to come together, to learn from each other, to share their experiences and have their questions responded from the community. There's a ton of valuable insights. It also comes with useful courses and resources available for new investors to get started. So I highly recommend it and encourage you to check it out for sure. Lastly, you do notice at the bottom of the dashboard, we have the overall breakdown of our investments by different account types, non-registered, TFSA, and RSP between my wife and I for this portfolio, as well as the management expense ratio associated with these ETFs that we have. The highest fees for X equity is still at a modest 0.2, not even 1%, 1/5 of 1%. And then VT and VTI, which have very, very low MERs at only 0.07 and 0.03% respectively. If you are a new investor and haven't really opened up any brokerage account and would like to take advantage of some of the referral links, I have included these referral links at the bottom of the dashboard for ease of reference. There you have it, folks. A quick look into our investment portfolio that we have here on this dashboard that I've developed and shared with you, and our game plan in the stock market. Really, for us, as I indicated, we are buying daily shares of X equity through some recurring buy on Wealthsimple, as well as some ad hoc buy here and there. And for VT and VTI, really only using the dividend incomes to buy more shares of VT and VTI on a quarterly basis when we earn those dividend income. What are some of the stocks or ETF that you are currently buying and adding to your portfolio? I would love to hear from you. Leave me a comment on Blossom or on YouTube and let me know what you're actually doing right now in the market. Thank you so much, as always, for watching this video until the end. I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you all on the next time on another video on Momentum Finance channel.